welcome back to Project Independence and You on Community Talk Radio, 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Los, and this is the part of the program where it's Talk of the Town. We talk about everything that's going on with the town with Kristina Lou, who is the radio show producer, and just so much more and more, and just creates these shows every week. All the guests come on. She just works really hard to get the show going. And now we get to hear from her in person and hear all about what's going on with the town, because she knows everything. So how are you?
Hello, I am good. I enjoyed the first segment. We've been lucky enough to have the Project Hope women do some presentations for us at local, at Magnolia Gardens. They did one, and then they did for our advisory committee. So it's really, really important. I mean, I know we're like a broken record talking about this on the show, but the mental health component of this whole pandemic was really just as significant, as a lot of the physical, stuff that went on. And it's just so important. I like the creative ways that they do things, and they meet with, and they're so flexible, these crisis counselors over at Project Hope. I like that they'll go to the library or work, and it's just, we don't even realize sometimes, because I think we were all sitting here listening, just the extent of how people were affected in so many different, realms of this and all ages and whatnot. It's, I always tell everyone during this time, like, everyone just needs to be a little easy on everyone else, because you're dealing with so many different emotions that you don't even know. And, we all can relate, to different things. And there's so many questions and uncertainty with everything. So it's bound to make people anxious who may never have really experienced anything. Anxiety's been with me forever. So, I'm an old pro at this. But, it's people who didn't, were like thrown into these situations. And then I look at, people who do struggle with these issues. And this was like the final straw, it just heightened everything so much. So it's so important to talk about these things and work through. And I think, half the battle is just hearing that, like, your feelings are validated and you're not, so many other people are going through similar things. And I know that helped me through this whole thing.
Lifting the shame off it. Like, if COVID, helped to do anything positive, all the positive, but imagine if it did kind of put, mental health kind of like, out of the shameful stigma that so many people feel, even though they struggle. It's almost like into, like, this is part. I mean, most doctors today, if you go for a checkup, they do a mental health screening. A depression screening, so I mean, that would really be good. But I like what you were saying, because it's when Dr. Sabine was talking about it from like the high school perspective, it just brought me back to that memory of like thinking, my kids are older, so but like, I can't imagine if when they were seniors in high school that their prom was canceled, their graduation was canceled. How scary. I mean, it's scary too, that can be just stopped and taken away. And
it's funny because you don't really think about this because, obviously in the height of the pandemic, everyone was just terrified of getting sick, so it's like everything else seemed kind of trivial. But then when you think about it, because I would, always struggle with, I was sad about certain things that were getting canceled or certain things I couldn't do. And then I felt, of course, this is me. I felt guilty for feeling that way because I'm like, oh my God, people are dealing with so much worse, but these things are important to other people, and yes, obviously health, we'll put there at top tier, but, all these other things and these life events that you have forever, were taken away from it. And it's hard, and I think everyone is still going to have like these little aftershocks, from the whole, event or whatnot.
PTSD. I mean, it's like, I think there's going to be, we still don't know, I
know, because we're still obviously, we know a lot more now and are aware of stuff, which is good, but there's still a lot of uncertainty and it's a scary time in general. But I think having these conversations and the fact that there are these amazing organizations out there that are doing such good work. And, it just always reminds me of when John, was here with us, and he used to talk about just the people on the show, how invested they are in what they're doing. When you talk to the Project Hope, both of them, Dr. Sabine and Carolyn, you could tell that they are in it to really help people and make a difference, and It was interesting. I love hearing the backstory of how Carolyn got back into this, after taking kind of a healthcare hiatus, but felt personally motivated to really get out there and help people. And these are, it's nice to know that there's little angels, running around helping people during these times.
It's very hard, like when we're sitting here, and I like to use the phrase sometimes, fat, dumb, and happy. We don't have, I'm going to rattle off a little list here, and this is not meant to dwell on the negative, but the things that people go through that we don't know that they're going through it necessarily. Mm-hmm. Money, a job, sickness for them or their family, working at home, not all a picnic, losing a loved one, social isolation, essential workers that are put into overload, shopping is a problem, domestic violence is a problem. And my point is, all these things, not everybody is going through, but there are people who are going through these things, and it's very hard to visualize that they are because you're not there, yet it's happening. And as you point out, it's a good thing that there are people out there like Project Hope and Project Independence who try to help people as much as they can in these areas. There's certain things you can't do anything about. You can only do what was pointed out by Carolyn, listen and see if you can help them with any of these problems. But I always, it's hard to sometimes imagine that people are really going through this stuff. Yeah. Because you're not, and we all kind of, the world is built around your own head. And I think it's important to try to escape from that head and visualize all the other heads around you, and I think we try to do what we can as a group and not dwell on these things as negatives, but realize that, yes, they exist and that we're not in la-la land here, and that there are people who can try to help when you're in these kinds of problems and reach out and try to get that help.
And it is, it's just a simple fact. And listen, it's easier said than done because everyone is going through their own stuff and has different frustration levels, at times. I think we could all relate to. But I think it's so important to realize you don't know. It's a common thing that when you were a little kid that your parent told you is you don't know what's going on in someone else's life. And you really don't. And I think it's just important to, just take a beat, and just be, a little, it's like, all right, we don't know what's happening. I'm going to give you a little pass. You give me a pass. It's really just puts it all into perspective. And you constantly have to kind of put those things in check because it is easy to get overwhelmed and to spiral, in this because everyone's feeling, the pressure in different ways. But it's just, be kind to people, right? It's like it is for it. If there's nothing else you can do, it's like, just I'll quote my man Harry Styles in the Treat People with Kindness camp, because it's just something as simple with that you just kind of gotta remember. So that's but it's great, and that the mental health, I'll go back to that because it is something, and even on social media now, and I listen to so many different podcasts and other radio shows. I mean, nothing's as great as this one, but there's other ones I listen to. And, there is a lot of commercials about mental health and services that are out there because there's wonderful things that now you can talk. It could be FaceTime, it could be through text. There's so many different ways to communicate with, a mental health or a therapist or whatever it might be. That makes life a little easier. And listen, if you are a senior in North Hempstead, 60 and over, you can call Project Independence. Our social workers and nurses, especially during this time, have been really in communication with our seniors through it all, whether it's weekly or whatever is in need. I'll see they do these wellness checks, and it's just everyone is just need someone to voice sometimes how they feel. And then their fear. And you after you do that, you feel kind of good. You might not have the answer or solve it, but getting it off your chest and just, releasing it, I think is so important. So,
the acting out of mental health problems today is a lot more severe and harsh than it was forever, in my opinion. what goes on in schools and kids getting shot and whatever. These are harsh methods of acting out.
Of course.
So how do it's critical for parents, caregivers,
No, and I
whatever,
think it's the
to try
community,
to
right?
help identify that they need help.
Yeah, and that's why I loved when I was listening to the Project Hope Women, that it's really a collaborative effort. And that's how I always feel about Project Independence. We may not directly provide the service, but we combine with all these different organizations. I mean, look at the people we have on this radio show. They become part of our network, and it just keeps building and building. And we're able to kind of have, a strong defense against, whatever might come our way. So it's just so important, and that the school is involved with Project Hope, and then the counselors and the social workers, and then the family. And it really becomes an integral thing that just benefits everyone. So I think, if more things kind of operated in that way, it would be certainly a helpful thing. And that's
well, relating it to Project Independence, are the nurses and the social workers now visiting? Are they going out to homes?
So it hasn't been officially. We're hoping. It's a little tricky right now. But so the official, hopefully, in the beginnings of 2022, we'll see how things go. Like we don't know. Nothing's as soon as we get the official approval, we will certainly announce it on here. But they are in their offices, so you can make an office appointment, and obviously you can still make phone appointments as well. And hopefully we'll have a final word on the in-home stuff soon.
Kind of going back just a little bit to we're talking about how you don't know what people are going through. It just reminded me, I think I talked about it on the show once, when I had my yoga certification. It was the most important lesson I think I ever learned, possibly in my life, but definitely becoming a mindful yoga teacher. Was one of the things we did was there was about 10 people taking the certification with me. And the instructor who was teaching us had us all write down 2 or 3 sentences of something that happened in your life. It could have been negative, positive, that changed your life, that changed who you were, and maybe nobody knows about. So it's a confidential kind of thing. The whole class, we had to sign off that everything stays there. So of course I wrote about the loss of my older brother. And the event, how I felt and how it impacted my life, and and I wrote it, and I thought we were going to go around the room and everybody was going to read their card if they chose to do that. Instead, we put the cards in a bowl, and we all read someone else's card, and I'm reading someone else's almost tragedy. Everybody pretty much wrote about something that stuck, and I'm thinking to myself, this woman who is the most together woman, this is like a side, and she had this horrific thing, and it changed who she was, and I to look at her. You would never in a million years think for a second, especially she was very young. I remember, this. And then, when someone read mine, I was like, it was just so shocking. And people were very empathetic. And so when I teach a yoga class, and I have, if it's a big class, a little class, people are sitting on that mat. You never know why they're there. You never know what just happened to their family member or to their world or whatever. So, it's true with all of us, I mean, we all have and deal with things differently. So it's so important. You were just saying it so beautifully, Christine, just be kind, just be kind. People are going through stuff too. And, if they're not going through it, someone in their family is. There's
right.
it's
escaping
so, that.
One
it's really
true.
It's
one of the hard things about that is that it's difficult sometimes to understand why somebody else can handle something that you think is easy to handle.
Right.
It's like their perception of this problem is more than your perception of the problem, but you can't minimize that person's perception of that problem. And that's a difficult,
it's hard, absolutely.
That
and that's
takes
what I want.
time to get that through your head. In my generation, all right. My generation would say, that's stupid. He can handle that. toughen up, but
Right.
not everybody has the same skills and coping skills or blessings in how to handle adversity. Handling change and adversity are difficult, and they require a mindset that not everybody has. So they
And
need
people are
help
you don't know,
sometimes.
it's like so many, every little thing that happens in your life, right, like leads up to who you are, or how you cope with something.
right.
So that person, listen, I come from a heavy line of worrying women, like it's kind of just, it's passed down, in our family genetics. So it's something that, we will obsess on or stress about, and someone else will be like, like that didn't even like cross my mind or whatever. So it's really, it's so complicated, Otto, and you're so correct in that, because I even have to check myself, because there's times that my mom may be, obsessing or about something that I'm like, Ma, you gotta like chill, you gotta stop. But then I think like, you know what? You have to like take that one, because it's affecting her and it's upsetting, and why I might think it's trivial, it's important to, just kind of be there for that person, and work through whatever it is. I've always faced it, myself, in
Yeah, it's
that
hard to understand.
it is. It's super hard to understand. And
Yeah.
people, they see you smiling on the outside and have no idea what's going on in the inside. So
Yeah,
Right.
so true. Such good stuff to get out there. But we actually have to take a quick break. You've been listening to Project Independence and You, Talk of the Town with Kristina Liu and Otto Los, and we will be right back after a quick break.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing, and find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host today, Rebecca Miller, along with wonderful co-host Otto Los and the fabulous radio show producer of Project Independence and You, Kristina Liu. So we're in the Talk of the Town segment with Kristina Liu, and Kristina just told a really good story over the break. So I'd love you to share it, because it really does
absolutely
represent what we're kind of talking about.
So and I always want to say, preface this on the show, because we try and take a positive spin on things, and especially during COVID, that was something that we pride ourselves in, was like finding the silver lining and working on yourself, and I never want people to think, it's easy. And now, Otto, I know you said that too. We don't like walk around like, skipping through rainbows and, roses, which would be lovely. Listen, there's some days that I feel like I can do that, but, it's something you really have to work on yourself. And it's a constant thing about how you react and put yourself in check. And I was sharing, if anyone knows me, they know I love decorating. And around this time of year, there's like the house is fully, stacked for Christmas. So my husband and I, we put up our tree, and it's a beautiful tree. Leading up to getting the tree is always a thing, because I'm very particular about the shape of the tree. And so we put it in for like a day or two. We have it sitting, just to let the the leaves drop, the branches drop, and we're doing it. We're putting the lights on. A couple of days later, I'm like, the carpet feels wet, Jay. I say to him, I don't know, And he's like, I don't know, maybe you like poured water and you like missed. And I was like, could have been. Like, I don't, that sounds like something that very well could happen to me. So then I'm like, I don't know, Jay. And we're laughing while we're doing it, because I was like, this has to be you. I was like, you definitely stepped in something outside with your slippers and like brought water, because it had been like raining outside. And he's like, I don't know, could have been. So we're just going along, we're putting up our beautiful ornaments. We're conversing over these sentimental ornaments we have. Next day I go to turn the lights on. I'm like, Jay, it's still like very wet. Like this should have been dry by now. So I was like, I feel like something's wrong. Something's got to be wrong. So we look in the tree stand, we have a flashlight, and we see there's like a hairline crack that has slowly been seeping into my car. And now I'm like, all right, because normally I would fully panic, because over the years we've had some tree incidents. We've had a tree, tip over. There's been stuff that's occurred. But I said, nope, not this year. and I've been trying to actively do this with a lot of different things that have been coming, at my way. And I said, no, we're going to figure this out. I'm not going to freak out about it. We're going to go get in the car. I was like, Jay, get in the car. And this is like after work. We're like exhausted. I was about to cook dinner. I was like, nope, get in the car. We're going to get a tree stand from Lowe's. Hop in. I was like, it'll be 2 seconds. We'll run. I know where they are. Boom, boom, boom. So, and my husband is looking at me because he looked like, is she kidding? Like, when is the full freak out going to occur? Like, this is like, and I said, no, nope, I'm not freaking out. I was like, and you're not going to freak out either? No one's freaking out. Like, we are good. And, I think it was a little bit of like fake it till you make it, but it was really seeping in. And so we come back and I was like, all right, now we have to like methodically take this tree out of the stand without having anything break. It was just the goal. I just don't want anything to break. Like really at this point, like if something shifts, whatever. So we figured it out. We did it. It was relatively painless. And we looked at each other and I was like, see, we're done. We're back in business. Everyone, Christmas can resume. We had to press pause for a second, but we are good. And it was just something as silly, we can like laugh about that. But I really actively like, and I said it in my head and I actually said it out loud. Like, we're going to get through this. This is just, an annoying thing that we have to deal with, but it's not, earth shattering. And we're just going to like handle it, like problem solution kind of thing. So that was my, mental health moment. And it felt good not to like completely panic, because I was like, oh my God, because I was like, all right, the carpet is wet. Because then I'm just thinking, great, like, is there now going to be like mold and mildew going on under my carpet? So I was like, let's get the shop back out. So I was just sitting there, just, shop back in the carpet. And it was good to not have a complete elevated freak out session. So.
Right. And you didn't have the freak out session and you probably got the same result if you guys, stressed out and look, you just, everything worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
I had
mentioned kind of see in the background, tree is standing.
I had mentioned on the show before, I think that Bunny, my wife, had a knee replacement, and talk about freaking out and stress. When somebody goes through that, first of all, what leads up to it is she was in severe pain with her knee to begin with. All right. So you go through this 3 months, 4 months, whatever period of time where somebody is in pain, and that creates a lot of problems. Can't walk, can't do this, can't do whatever. Creates problems for the person, and it creates problems for the other person, which in this particular case is me. All right. So, you can't like make believe you're going to walk around in la la land. There's a lot of demands put on the caregiver, if you will. There's tremendous demands on the mental strength of the person who's going through it. And you have a lot of times where you maybe not doing it quite how you ought to be doing it. You lose your patience or whatever. And when she first got home from the hospital, that was very not fun either by any means. So when I talk to people about issues, I've had a lot of them in my life. And just a current example, you go through the pain that somebody else is going through. You're going through a certain amount of pain as you get older, more so as a caregiver in a situation like this. And I'll be the first to admit that we had some moments that weren't particularly great. All right. But I consider that to be reasonably normal. We both kept saying, I'm tired, you're tired. Let's just, let's just admit that this is not a good moment, and we'll just let it fly by. So coping with things like that go on every day in people's lives. And I'm not going to be here and say we were walking around like we were like in fairyland. No, we weren't. And you have to go through a certain amount of anxiousness or whatever, and you will get through it. And we are getting through it.
Good.
But not always easily.
No,
So
it's
my
not,
point
and
being,
that's,
if anybody's listening,
you bring it into communication, and these are things that anyone of any age, whether you're retired or in the workforce or with friends or with family, whatever it is such an important thing, and it's just, this is just like, it's like a reminder, these things are very like you think it's common knowledge, but it's just sometimes you need to be reminded, because I think, everyone is hyper, sensitive, and everything just can set you off, especially like during this time, because you're so inundated with just like the craziness of everything. And it is like times, and it's like, and I feel bad because like there's sometimes if I'm like snippy or short with someone, I'm like, oh, like you like think about it, like, oh, I wish I didn't like have that, and it's about like forgiving yourself and just moving on and learning from it, and kind of just everyone's just trying, really, at the end of the day.
Right.
Well, I mean, if two people have a bad hair day at the same time,
well,
that takes that takes years to get practice handling that.
Yes, of course.
Well, you have to admit, look, we're having a bad time. Let's just skip it,
Yeah. And everyone deals with it. There's so many different personalities, so much. I mean, I could talk about this for hours because I do with my friends all the time. With maybe with some beverages, discussing.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that I'm so aware of, and it's interesting. And it's just, the bottom line is, guys, we just want everyone to, just try to be a little better each day. It's hard, but just, it's the simple thing. And especially around the holiday season. If there's ever a time to be a good person, it's certainly now.
And also some part of that too is maybe not reacting too quickly. Like if somebody says something or, kind of engages you in a way where you would respond negatively, or they're having a bad, just take a breath and don't respond. Don't put the foot in the mouth.
True.
We don't know what they're going through. And, you don't want to give someone else also the power to make your day bad.
Yeah.
If this person isn't having a good day, it doesn't mean that I have to react and be defensive. And
it's that thing, it's you can control your reaction, right? That's the only thing you can control. You can't change the other person. And that's something I actively have to tell myself, once a day.
Right.
But it's something that you as much as you want to be like, you should be, but you can't. You're not gonna, there's a lot of people in my life, you're just not gonna change them. You're not gonna teach an old dog new tricks. They are who they are. But the only thing you can really control is your,
Well, I like the phrase, I always think of it as don't let them rain on your parade.
Yep.
I have a couple friends, still friends, but they every now and then can rain on somebody's parade. And, I say, don't let him do it.
Yeah.
It's his parade. If he wants rain on his parade,
I like it. That's right. Rain all over your parade. You're not raining on mine.
Rain all over your parade. I don't care.
I like it, guys.
But you have to learn to block out somebody else's rain, if you will.
Yeah, right.
You really do. I mean, you can't let people drag you down. And there are some people that are professionals at doing that.
Well, but the one thing too is forgiveness is also something you do for you, not for the other person. If I forgive somebody, it's not about them. It's really about like freeing yourself. If 100%. You hold a grudge, if you're going to be mad at somebody for something they did and it's building up in you, what is that doing? You're holding on to it. You don't have to hold on to it. You can forgive that person, even if you don't even tell them. And even if they don't apologize, it's not about that. You could, I forgive you. And it's about you. It's about taking care, of yourself. So there's so many things that we can do. Really,
it is. It's so many layers. It's absolutely, because that's like my big thing. Because I can't hold a grudge to save my life. I never have.
Well, that's good.
There could be things that I'm so hurt by, that really. But it's just not. And my mom, the two of us, we always laugh because we just say like we just can't. As pissed off as we could be at someone, at the end of the day, But I said, Mom, and that's what exactly I said back. I said, we're doing this for ourselves. Whatever it is, it's just going to make us feel better. And, people, because my husband, like, oh, you're too soft. You always forget it. And I said, well, you know what? That's just me. So that's just how it makes me feel better. And that's how I'm going to get
exactly. And that's like another thing in yoga that I also teach a lot is letting go. You don't have to hold like when you're doing a yoga pose that's kind of very twisty, your lower back is always saying, what are you doing? I've got you're like your upper body's to the right, your lower body's to the left, you're reaching one leg out, and the back tries to pull you back in, because it's like this isn't right. You have to remind your back that this is good for me. You take a full breath in and you try to soften that area. You let it go. You don't hold on to it. And you could do that, during your poses, but also what's going on, emotionally. You don't have to hold on to, especially other people's stuff, So, there's just all these kinds of I don't want to say tricks, but it's really how you soften and let go. Don't hold on to it. I think it's great that you don't hold on to it. I mean, when you hold on to resentment and anger and things like that, it's just going to upset you. The person that you're mad at is just like going on happy. You have no idea. And you are holding on to all this stuff. It doesn't matter. It's not worth it,
What you said earlier, Christina, you said something about changing people, whatever. I have talked to probably several hundred in my life, family members, other people who voice dissatisfaction with their job. And when I dig a little deeper, I find out usually it's not the job, it's somebody they work with, either their boss, a coworker, or whatever. And then I dig a little more and I find out, that's the problem. So then I say, okay, I said, do a lot of other people seem to indicate the same thing about this particular individual? Yeah, they do, blah, blah. So I always end up with, you cannot change that person.
Right.
The only thing you can change is what goes on right here, your view and your perspective of that person. And if you can't do that, then you have to leave. You got to leave the job. But you should not allow another person's, maybe they're in the wrong job or whatever. You can't change that. And if you can't realize that you are the one who has to change your perspective and your view of that, then it's time to move on. But you're the one who has to make the change, not them. They're not going to change. So anyhow.
You're so right. It's definitely something you have to really accept.
I mean, I've been there personally probably 100 times.
Who hasn't? I mean, who hasn't? It'd be bizarre if you never went through experience, whether it was, at work or personal or
it could be family, it could be friends, it could be whatever.
Of course. I mean,
I just happen to apply that to a job, which it applies to. It applies to everything.
Of course.
That person's
another
not going to change.
mantra I learned is when we talk about control, right? I can't control this. So control implies that you lose control too. But really, so maybe if you change the word control to manage, manage for yourself. So that's like one of the tricky things we do when we want to be controlling, because there's also negativity associated with you're controlling, you're too controlling. This isn't controlling, that's controlling. But, if you put the word manage instead, that gives you a little bit more power. And, you're managing, you manage this, you can manage this person in your life. You can't control this person, but you can manage this person in your life, So it's kind of how you look at it,
Yeah, I like that.
Nuggets.
Well, that's another very interesting world is control.
Right.
Some relationships, it clearly becomes one person's controlling the situation. And sometimes that's over the top. And, how do you contend with something like that? There's another part of life. Your mother's still trying to control you and you're 60 years old. There's all kinds
That's true,
of scenarios.
but I'm not 60.
Well, you're creeping up there.
Hey, Otto.
Oh, that's good.
Well, if you're creeping up there, I'm creeping up there too. So
I am creeping. I am not creeping. I am,
So anyhow, I was looking
away.
at a couple of things that the town is doing.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you about this Lumino City Festival. What's that all about?
So we were. It's so nice because during this time, right, you just kind of want to be happy and do joyous things with the family or your friends or whoever. But the Luminosity Festival, that I've actually.
Luminosity, okay.
Yes. I mean, that's how I pronounce it. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's just kind of what I've been saying. So we're going to go with that. It's really a beautiful, I actually passed it the other day and I saw it's all these beautiful lit up, I can't even call them sculptures. I wouldn't even know like the correct word for it, but it's a beautiful, unique kind of brightly, it's just nice for any age. And it's at the Whitney Pond Park in Manhasset. It goes until January 9th. And it's really just amazing because these things are all handmade and it's absolutely beautiful. Tickets are sold, so you got to get it ahead of time, but you can call 311 or 516-869-6311 to get the information on that.
Well, we got to take a quick break. We're talking with Kristina Liu, our radio show producer. This is the Talk of the Town time of Project Independence in You. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We are actually in our last segment of today's show with Talk of the Town with Kristina Liu and Otto Los. And Kristina, you were just filling us in on what's going on in the town, but I want to give a shout out to my son. I actually hope that he would chime in at some point, but he's working and wasn't able to because he's in the field. But it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Matt.
Happy birthday, Matt.
You are the best older son that I have.
26 years old?
Not my
26?
my younger son. 26.
Beck had him when she was 4.
It's hard to
What's
believe
that?
you have a son that old, Rebecca.
Oh, yeah,
There
you're
you
trying
go.
to make up for that
There
other
you go,
comment.
that's
I know
right,
what
Otto,
you're doing,
Otto.
Otto.
He thought about his comments. That you saw us in action. He thought about what he said, and he's like, "I'm going to change this into a positive."
Yeah, yeah. Good
you heard
work.
it here first. But I want to remind people, so next week is our last show before the holidays, Christmas and New Year's. And we are having on Shari Baton, who is our mobility manager. She's going to give us some updates on the transportation program and, just safety, winter safety. We're hopefully we're not going to get too much snow, but it's important to know what happens when we have snow. So we'll be doing a lot of talking about that. And it'll be a festive little celebration. We always like to. You guys might have a little elf showing up next week to your houses, dropping off something. So next week should be, I encourage everyone to tune in because it's going to be another great and informative show. And I also just want to remind people to please, the best way to get it, because it's the most up-to-date, and that's a shout out to the fabulous Dan Cox, is our WCWP Studios YouTube page. Has all the videos of different interviews. And I really we have it on our website as well, Project Independence website, but I think the YouTube is so great to share. So please, you can share it to, your friends, your Facebook friends, whatever social media, to post these interviews because there's such great information. And it's just really exciting because I'm into February now booking. And I just want to give some glimpses about stuff that will be coming too. So in January, we have on a doctor from Northwell who's going to talk about joint replacement. Otto and I were saying we really needed someone to kind of talk about this because it's certainly an issue that people, and not just seniors, are dealing with. There's a lot of even younger who've had injuries that have had to have these kind of replacements. And it's very complex, but we have some great speakers for that. Then we're going to have in January also medication management and all that goes into that. The importance of sleep, and the United Way will be on talking about Project Warmth. And then in February, I finally tracked down someone who can give us the ins and outs of Alexa, Amazon Alexa, and how to, it's good for the caregiver and for the senior. And it seemed like a great article I found. I tracked down these 2 women who have this website where they go into detail about all this stuff. So they seem lovely. They are going to come in via Zoom and tell us about everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, so there are really great stuff coming up. And if you have a recommendation for a topic or there's someone that you've met, please call 311 or 516-869-6311. Ask to speak to me, Kristina. I would love it because there's such great suggestions I've gotten from people. And Otto certainly loves to give me a topic and be like, find someone to talk about this. So it's like, I get very determined to do that. But these are really great topics, and they're good for anyone of any age. I like to always remind everyone. So check that out.
I wanted to throw one little tidbit out there because you were giving out the phone number for 311. You said 516-869-6311. I've had some people who've tried to call me at my office number say that it doesn't work, it's not going through. You have to dial 516 now.
Yeah.
Even if you're in Nassau County.
Because it's starting to kick in. Because for a while, like there was some, but I actually noticed I was trying to call my mom and it wasn't going through. And so it's definitely something that I think is becoming more prevalent now. So just you have to kind of train yourself. And
it's been about a month.
And when you save it in your phone, just add that 516 because it makes life a lot easier. So
I wonder if the phones automatically did it because I noticed that some of my phone numbers I've always had 516, some I haven't. But I think the iPhone might.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to check. I haven't paid too much attention. I'm gonna check that out after the show. But yeah, very interesting.
So what else?
And then tonight, which is very exciting, is there's going to be the lighting of the Christmas tree at Yes We Can Community Center. That's at 5 p.m. There's going to be light refreshments, music, dancing. There'll be some carolers and a surprise guest. It should be a really lovely event. I know Community Services has been working hard on prepping for that. So if you are in the area, check that out because it's just a fun little community thing. Who doesn't like to see a Christmas tree get lit up? You know what I mean? Really nice.
And on the phone call thing, I no longer believe you have to have a 1 in front of the 516. No. So you can just do the area code, no 1.
Just do 516.
Right.
There you go. You heard it here first, people.
Very important.
And also tomorrow is it's the last one of the year, and I want people to definitely take advantage of this. It's the Shed the Meds program. It is through the Nassau County and the Town of North Hempstead, and the police commissioners are all kind of joining forces to do this Shed the Med drop-off event. It is going to be tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. over at Tully Park. That's in New Hyde Park. And it's a place to get rid of any unwanted or expired medication. And these are some accepted items: prescriptions, prescription patches, prescription medications, ointments, over-the-counter meds, vitamins, sample medications, and even your medications for your pets. Things they will not be taking are needles, sharps, aerosol cans, thermometers, ointments, hydrogen peroxide, inhalers, and other biohazardous waste. So you can call, obviously, and get all the details on that. But it's really a great, we certainly all know that, if you go to the doctor, you'll get this giant prescription of something that you don't, didn't work or you don't need. And it's what do you do with all these things, and these sample medications and even just over-the-counter medications. Forget that, that is something.
You mentioned that Nassau County, too. Is this just for town residents or is it?
This is the whole county.
Yeah, county.
It's Nassau County. Yeah. It doesn't say just town residents, so it looks like everyone can kind of just partake. But you could also double check. I don't think they're checking your
right. Nassau County's there, and
right, and the Nassau County Police Department. Because this you could also drop off throughout the year to the police station medications because we used to at our stop programs have that, but it became too much of a liability to be having, all these different, medications and whatnot. But, I think it's so great with the over-the-counter medications they take too, because that's something that I'm always checking the dates in, whether it's Advil or Tylenol, whatever it is. There's so many things in there that have expired and you're like, what do I do with this?
Right.
It's,
that's an interesting one, the expired part. Like I carried around and I used them a few times for people, these little packs of aspirin. And, I've had it where I've been with somebody and they say, oh, my leg is killing me, whatever. And I gave them 2 aspirin, which they tell you should do. And it turned out they did have a problem. They had a blood clot and whatnot. But was interesting was I looked at them recently, and I think it was like 2001 that they expired. So I was walking around with these little packs of aspirin that were, but I mean, that the question would be, would they still work? Or,
Well, Otto, when we have our medication management woman on, she's from St. John's Pharmacy, you can ask her that question.
Yeah,
And
I just
say,
have to
because
remember it.
there are certain, listen, I'm not a doctor or advance any of this, so don't take my word, but I think there's certain things it's not like going to harm you. It's just not as effective.
Right. The potency changes. And, but it also, it's not a good idea, because if it's losing potency and maybe one part of it gets stronger, it's
right. Just
Well,
follow the
food is
expiration date.
another one where you look in the refrigerator or the freezer and you say, ooh, that expired a year ago. Well, it's best if used by,
Yeah.
It's tough. You gotta follow the wording too. Listen, I try to like hold on. I try to go strong with certain things because I hate throwing away like perfectly good stuff or like canned goods. Because this is something that I had to check. Because when we were in this pandemic, the amount of stuff that we were stocking up, I'm like, oh man, like what am I? I hate like not being able to utilize something, but I have it. If anyone it is looking for, baked beans, I happen to have an enormous amount. So, call 311. I have there were so many, I was like, what were we doing with all these baked beans? I wasn't sure, but apparently we just didn't want to not have baked beans. So that is that.
So over COVID, there were so many things that we learned about food and stuff. Is there something that you made over, when you were home, when we were all home, that you never made before, like things that you did or cooked or kind of, because, it's like, because I worked my whole mommy life pretty much. So whatever I cooked was either something I made over the weekend or something quick, stir fry, or we would order, so being home all that time, even though my kids mostly weren't there, they were one away at school, one was living in the city at the time, but, I did experiment on.
Yeah, I can't remember. We just got our air fryer. Remember when it first happened? So I was doing a lot of air frying.
Oh, that's a good discussion. We just got one too.
Oh, I love it. Great. I love it. So great. I'm super into the air fryer. But in my family situation, it was a little more difficult because we were I had to do a lot of bulk cooking because my parents were upstairs. My brother was here at the time. My cousin was staying with us for 6 months. So it was a lot of trying to figure out how to maximize. I kept saying, Jay and I was like, Jay's I feel like I'm working in a soup kitchen because we had a whole system, a line going on. And it was just, trying to equally portion things because there was some stuff you couldn't get, it was a lot of kind of trying to think outside the box, but there was a lot.
We got very good at takeout and delivery during the process.
I mean, I've been an old pro at that for a very long time. So.
Well, we really got more into the delivery part of it. I would always go pick up, and I used to think, I can pick it up, And then we got this gift thing for Uber Eats from the family, and use it. And most places deliver, and they're more than happy to deliver. Now you pay for it.
You do, but you know what? Sometimes it's just the convenience of it, You
gotta, most of the time.
Reminds me of a funny meme I saw the other day. Someone posted something like, just saw my Amazon delivery guy. He wished me happy holiday season. And I said, it's not like I'm not going to see you tomorrow. It's just early.
That's true. We just got the air fryer delivered yesterday. I haven't opened the box
you're going to love it. It is amazing. It's
I'm going to need a primer.
I still do. There's so much because there's so many buttons on my air fryer. That's a topic I would love to have someone talk about that I just don't even I wouldn't even begin to dabble in. But it's great. I love vegetables and it tastes so good. It's just if you like Brussels sprouts in an air fryer, man.
Roasted is amazing.
Roasted.
I like boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You put them on the tray, you season them a little bit, just a little, and they come out, they're just perfectly cooked, And
what do you set it on?
Air fry. I do air fry, and I usually, it depends on what you're cooking. So sometimes I'll do a 400. I'm always like Googling what, is like
Yeah,
the best.
400's like the go-to.
Yeah.
Now, if you have leftover pizza,
Yep.
where do you
Heated
put
toast,
that?
whatever.
That goes into the air fryer part?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going
And
to
it depends on what, like my thing has like a button, I think, that says like reheat or something. The only issue I have with my air fryer is that I got the side by side, because it's just, Jay and I here or whatever. But, so I love the two drawers because it was cool because you could do two different things at once. But the problem is it's not as big, so you can't do something like super big. Like I can't like throw like a chicken in there or something, like a whole chicken. But I do think, let me tell you, chicken sausages in the air fryer with
sausages,
feta cheese, onions and peppers, delicious. It is.
How long do you leave it in there?
I feel like I do. I mean, I go a little overboard, right? Because I'm always terrified something's not like.
Yeah, I like things crispy anyway. Yeah.
And my husband, if my husband sees like anything resembling pink, like full panic. Right. So I probably, I want to say like half hour-ish in there.
Yeah, it's not a microwave. Like some people think that they get their air fryer and it cooks like, no, it's not. You still have about the same amount of time that things cook. But what I have in mind is I have the cage that spins.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you put, you could put chicken wings in there and it just cooks.
I just think things come out great. I really do. I think things come out super delicious. So.
Looking forward to it.
My home phone is ringing. Let me stop that because it's annoying.
Yeah, so my son moved out and he took the air fryer. So I bought another one and he only uses the air fryer and he puts everything in there and he's just like a master seasoner. He can pull together the flavors and he'll cook the food in the air fryer and then throw it in a bowl and put the seasoning in the bowl and then just kind of like roll things around and it's just great. I'm starving right now.
I know. Clearly you can tell it's approaching 12 o'clock. We're all famished. I also just wanted to remind people, I know we're rapidly running out of time, but there's still the Veterans Donation Drive for gift cards is still happening. So if you were in the store and you want to pick up an extra gift card, you can do that and then mail it over to Town Hall, which is 220 Plandom Road, Manhasset. They're also collecting holiday cards for veterans as well. So if you want to write off some holiday cards, there's a bunch of different locations it's being dropped off at. I mean, you could drop it off at Tully Park, Yes We Can Community Center, Town Hall, and the Port Washington Parking District will be accepting it. So that is certainly on my list. I think that's a nice kind of reminder to do around this holiday.
Oh, what about we have an advisory board meeting, right? Did we mention that?
We have an advisory meeting that is it's a holiday party. It's like our end of the year kind of holiday thing, and that is on December 21st, I believe, at 10 o'clock. Is that correct, Otto? Do we know that?
I believe I have the brochure.
I have so many dates in my head. I'm almost positive that is the date. So let me just clarify, make sure. Yep, 10 o'clock on December 21st.
It says 10 to 11.
Yes, 10 to 11.
Yes, 10 to 11.
You are, obviously it's via Zoom still, so you could Zoom in, call, and get the link. Or even if you don't have video, you can call in through the phone and still participate, which I think is nice. And a lot of our members do too. So call 311 or 516-869-6311 for that.
Well, it's that time. The show is come to an end. I want to thank our guests again, Carolyn and Dr. Sabine from Project Hope. Great information. Kristina, great town updates. Otto, as always, thank you so much. Dan Cox, thank you. And that's it. So we'll be next week. We'll be with Shari Baton, Mobility Manager. We'll hear all about transportation. Have a wonderful and safe weekend, everybody. You've been listening to Project Independence and You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Take care.